Today on the summit, we talk about Matt Cruz versus Rosie Knight, and we also talk about Roker versus Bateman, and also we do bracket predictions with a little bit of a competition that I decided to throw into the mix as well. So let's have some fun.
When there's trouble, you know who to call. Team Titan!
Today on the summit, there wasn't a lot of matches that happened this week, but we've got two pretty good matches. But before we talk about them, I'll introduce my panel first. Returning to the summit in what seemed like forever, we've got Robert the Hobbit Parker. Robert, how's it going?
I'm great. It's really good to be back. Yeah, it's been a little while, but I'm really happy to be back here and talk about some good matches and do some brackets.
Also here with me tonight is one of our recurring guests. We've got Peter. Peter, how's it going?
It's going pretty good. I'm glad to be back on the summit. It's been a little bit for me as well. But yeah, I am very excited to get on my bracket predictions. Hashtag 5 Horsemen. So just a little clue into who will be taking my bracket.
And also here with us was his birthday yesterday. But it's JDH. JDH, how's it going?
Going pretty good, and if we're doing brackets, 1 second, allow me to prepare. Okay, I think we're ready.
Yeah, I mean, before we get into the bracket predictions, we've got a few matches that we have to talk about. So first up, we've got our first Patreon competitor coming in, Cruz versus Knight. I mean, this was a interesting match to say the least. It's not up there with the great matches, but it's still fun to watch because with Cruz being a first Patreon, it was exciting. After round one, Rosie was in the lead, 6 points to 3. In round two, Cruz spins 2000s and Knight spins Action Adventure. And after round two, both didn't really do that well in the round two because Knight still led 9 points to 6. And after round three, Knight wins 14 points to 11. And in the post-match interviews, we see Jared Hayborn come out and challenges Rosie to a match. Robert, what was your thoughts on Cruz versus Knight?
Yeah, this is a really interesting one because we've seen Knight before, obviously, in the Inner Geekdom, and she did okay in her Inner Geekdom match in the first round of the tournament when she lost to Keaton Marchie. So we really didn't know much about her in just the general movie knowledge, and obviously Cruz being a patron competitor, we didn't really know much about his knowledge base either. So these were two relative unknowns, and I actually thought that Knight specifically, I was more impressed than I thought I would be in her general movie knowledge based off of what I had seen in her Inner Geekdom match. So I thought she actually performed better in this setting than she did in Inner Geekdom. So I hope that her and Hayban go at it, and I think Hayban will also surprise people.
Yeah, I mean, it was a surprising match. I mean, to say the least, I'm with you on both Knight and Cruz. We only seen Knight and then the Geekdom. Peter, what was your thoughts on the match?
You know, I thought that this was, for being a milestone match, the first Patreon supporter being in a actual Schmoedown match, that's, it's a historic match. I was a little perplexed on why they put Knight in this role to be the first opponent of a Patreon person. After her first match, I was a little underwhelmed by her. Might have just been because of her debut and then her character trying to be so over the top and just blatantly disrespecting the Schmoedown that it kind of pushed me away from her. But I think that, if she does maybe improve a little bit on her trivia, she can have a little bit of a placehold in the maybe like mid-tier of the Schmoedown. And I'm really excited for Habon to come into the league and maybe show off some skills that he seems to be confident in it, at the very least.
Oh yeah, like Habon coming into singles is really interesting because and I mean before he even debuted, we didn't know how good he was in the geekdom, but he shows he is pretty good in that. So maybe he's a lot better in general movie. We'll find out. JDH, what was your thoughts on the match?
I thought the match was pretty decent. Obviously, coming in, as Robert pointed out, they were two pretty much unknowns, especially with Matt. Obviously, with other fans that we've seen, we usually get some kind of general knowledge of how they are, but Matt Cruz is someone who, to my knowledge, I had not seen any exposure to in any form of trivia, so I was curious to see how he was going to do. It's definitely clear that he has some holes in his game. That was kind of evident in the first and second round. But sadly, that 5-point question, I feel bad for anybody that has to remember anything involving the Transformers movies. That's almost not even fair. But he did the best he could. But Rosie, I'm just glad that she ditched the character that she was playing in the original Inner Geekdom game was fixed, crap that I can't stand. I'm glad that she steered away from that and just came more of a general heel. As far as Jared Habon coming in, I'm wondering if this is going to be the recurring gag of just random person coming in and interrupting Rosie Knight after a match. If they just make that a gag, I'll be fine with that. I don't know how it will affect her win-loss record, but yeah, ultimately, Rosie, I'm sure she would have liked to have played a little bit better, but she got the win, and ultimately that's the most important thing.
Yeah, and as for me, I thought this match was pretty good. Like, I mean, both these matches that we're going to talk about this week, they were underwhelming, especially when it comes to the next one, which was surprisingly underwhelming. Because I mean, just not because they were bad, just because like they weren't as high scoring as they could have been. So I mean, with that, it's like, and with Habon is one that I think could do really well. I mean, be interesting to see what that match is going to be like when it comes up. So yeah, but I had a chance to sit down and talk with Matt Cruz the other day. So here's the interview. Right, probably not to the side, but it'll pop up somewhere on the screen. but yeah, I chatted with Matt. Then welcome to the Reactors Summit. Unfortunately, due to it being Labour weekend, and that we couldn't actually get an actual panel together to talk about the matches, but we do have a treat for you because we've got an interview with the first Patreon person to join the Schmoedown, Matt Cruz.
Boom. Treat is a nice way of putting it, sir. Treat, I guess that implies like it could go bad, it could be like Reese's, or it could be like an apple with a razor in it. Hopefully it's not the latter.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me on, Malcolm.
Not a problem. Pleasure's all mine. So I mean, the first question I'm going to ask you is, like, how did you get chosen to compete?
Chosen. I mean, I auditioned just like anybody on the Patreon would. I don't know how many cats on the Patreon did audition, but if anybody else did, kudos to them for going through it, dude, because that's fucking nerve-wracking. I mean, you can probably imagine like you're sitting there waiting for like a call from Harloff all morning, and you're like, shit, man. You're just staring at your computer like it's gonna explode. But it was good. It was nerve-wracking. He was really nice. He was really, really comforting. He walked me through it. He's like, look, man, we're just going to talk. I'll ask you some questions. He kind of walked me through the promos he wanted me to do. It was a lot like, I'll state something, and then you kind of tell me how you would do if you were in this situation. Which also is kind of weird when he gives you situations where he's like, you're playing JTE. I'm like, I don't even know JTE, but all right, I'm playing JTE. But it was good. I mean, I survived through the questions. I think he a little bit more was like, this cat's all right as far as the promos. I didn't really lose my spot too much, and he kind of dug a couple of the bits that I did, and we got a lot of wrestling. So from there, he was like, just come in, come hang out a couple times, you know. And that was kind of the first talk that we had in the interview process, how that went.
Yeah, so leading up to the audition, sort of how did you prepare for the questions? Did you just do any study beforehand, or just go in and see what happens?
Oh man, I'll be honest with you, Malcolm. It's like it got grueling at points. I did go through, like, I put myself through kind of like a training, because I know, like, I'm not one of these cats. Like, a lot of these cats who get invited on there, like, they're from somewhere. They're from Nerdist, they're from Funhouse, or they're from somewhere like that. And, like, coming from an outside, you know, like, I felt like I had to know my shit. So I really went through, like, a couple months. Like, as soon as I knew I was gonna audition, I went through, like, a process of, like, every day at least 1 to 2 movies, you know, spreading it out between, like, movies I haven't seen, revisiting movies I haven't seen in a long time. Most of it was just watching or getting through movies that I couldn't get through. Like, I finished Mamma Mia finally, finished Hidalgo. It was a lot of just, like, pushing through movies that I didn't want to get through before. But a couple months of that, dude. Couple months of it. It may not look like it in that in the matches that I had, but couple months of movie, 1 or 2 movies every day, dude.
Yeah, so now leading up to your first match when you interrupted Rosie Knight, did you get to choose who you went out first, or did Christian like go, here's 3 people who I think you'd be good at facing? Which one of these would you like to face, or was it more set up by Christian, like that you'll be facing Rosie?
I don't know how much. Sorry, Malcolm. I was like, fuck. I honestly don't know
how much you could tell us. Like, if you think you can't say it, then don't say it.
Yeah, I honestly was like, I haven't had that conversation. We talked for a couple months when I would come. I came every Friday for a few months, dude. Like, it's about 70 miles from where I'm at right now here in Riverside. But for a couple months, like, that's one of the things that, like, that was kind of heartening to me. Like, everybody's been cool so far, because I was more worried that, like, I put a lot of time into it, and, like, I saved, like, I worked double shifts for a couple months straight to, like, get that 600 to do it. So to have people be cool about it, especially Harloff, I would go every week and we kind of talk ideas. And he'd be like, oh, like, he'd see how I'd interact with cats there, and he'd be like, oh, maybe I'm thinking this person. There's somebody who I'd like to play soon, who I was gonna play for the first one, and it just didn't work out. But Rosie, we had talked about, and I was like, yeah, Rosie'd be cool, man. She's young, she's hip, like, she'd be a good, like, she wanted, like, they wanted to be, like, you know, she wanted to be like a villain and play like a heel, and he wanted to put me in his face, so that's how that kind of came together. But she's been cool, dude. Rosie's awesome. Rosie's really funny.
Yeah, so before your match happened, did any of the existing competitors give you any tips for cutting promos or match studying or anything like that?
You know what, man? Like, the match wasn't on the books for that long. It was only like a couple weeks out. So I didn't really talk to that many people leading up to it. The day of, I don't know if you saw that behind the scenes thing that Cameron put together. But Donica, dude, Mark Donica is the fucking man, Malcolm. Like, that's a dude. I got there, and, like, that day of, just, like, shooken. He took me to the side and was like, look, man, like, he really talked me down. He made me, aside from Donica, I mean, not so much, dude. Broke it the day of, told me don't fuck up. So you can imagine that I had pressure right before.
Yeah.
But, you know, Donica was probably the main cat really pushing me, Donica, and then Harloff, of course.
Now, so going into the match now, so how did you feel about the match overall? Was there any questions that came up that you feel like you should have gotten, or like did the lights affect you in any way?
Dude, it's okay. So they say it's different, and like Donica says it's different, and I know a lot of people. I myself being one of them in the past, and I were like, yeah, questions. It's all fine until like you miss one, and then once you miss the first one, you're kind of stumbling. I imagine in your second match, it's not the same, but once you miss your first question under those lights, and then you got to chug along, they're like, all right, I'm moving on, and you're still kind of like, I was left kind of dazed on my feet a couple of times, dude. But as far as like the match itself, I felt confident with it. I mean, you know what, dude? Those are some hard questions. I'm not gonna lie. What did you think?
Yeah, I felt some of those questions were quite difficult for a debut match. But I mean, it is what it is. Sometimes you get questions you don't know. Like I compete in fan leagues all the time, and sometimes you do get a question that is like, I don't know what it is.
Yeah, dude. You know what? Like there were some ones that I should have hit. Like boom, Chinatown. Should have hit Chinatown. Boom, fucking. Big Trouble in Little China. Also, Skalisky, I don't know what's going on with that. He's got some weird viewing styles going on there. He's just going through like movies called China. But aside from those, the rest of them I felt were pretty hard. Fucking poor Rosie Knight got that 3-pointer of Beethoven. How many theatrical Beethovens have there been? Like, yeah, it can go either way, dude. You know. So I got the handout. I was dealt. There were some easy ones in there. There were a lot of hard ones in there. But hey, it happens, dude. I feel confident now that I watch it. Like the day of, it definitely felt like, fuck, I really fucked up. But now that watching back, I'm confident with it, dude. I felt like I gave it my all. There were a couple, maybe one or two that I should have hit, but it would have been the same outcome.
Yeah. So apart from the person that you want to face next, is there anyone else that you'd like to face that you might not get a chance to at the moment because of records and stuff?
Because of what?
So if is anyone you'd like to face, doesn't really matter if the records line up, is there anyone else out there you would like to face sometime?
There was some there was some talk of Makuga, which I thought would be fucking awesome. I think that'd be really sweet. Man, there's a big one that there's a big one that's in the back of my head that I'd like to build up to, but Makuga, and then there's a new cat coming in, a couple of new cats who are coming in who I like, who I get along with. You know what? A lot of the younger cats who kind of don't work at Collider, who are outsiders, I got to be friends with. It's a lot quicker because we're both in the same type of ship. Janine is amazing. She's one of the new cats who has been really nice too. I'd like to go against a couple of the younger bucks first. I got a big one in the back of my head that I'm building up to if we can get there. But yeah, a couple of the younger cats.
Now, so in the Schmoedown's other leagues, so would you be interested in competing in something like Inner Geekdom or Star Wars?
Hold on, I'm so sorry, Malcolm. Let me move a little closer. I lost you on that one, brother. Hit me with that one more time. Would you be interested in competing in Inner Geekdom? Inner Geekdom, I would be down for Inner Geekdom if the match was right. I would play Donica. There was, I don't know if you remember when Donica played Sean Gerber. That day, the day before, it fell through. Burnett was supposed to play him, and then I guess Harloff was scrambling the last minute, and the next day I came in for the match, and he was like, hey, I was going to put you against Donica. And I was like, oh, man. And he's like, yeah. He's like, but I didn't want, he's like, I don't want you to get your head kicked in, man. And I was kind of like, whoa. It was a little bit of like, whoa, shit. Like, it pumped me up. But at the same time, I was kind of like, that's nice. He was looking out for me. But at the same time, I'm like, yo, throw me in there. So if I ever were to go Inner Geekdom, it'd have to be like somebody like that, like a Donica, or somebody like, I have to actually like want to do the match with them, because that's a lot of Star Trek movies to watch, dude. That's too much Star Trek for somebody I'm not going to have fun with, Yeah.
I can totally see that. thanks for giving me your time. I know you can be quite busy at times, but is there anywhere people can find you online?
Yeah, no, of course. Thanks for having me on, Malcolm. I appreciate it, brother. You guys were actually one of the shows that was kinder to me, especially my debut too when I came in. So I busted into Rosie Knight's interview. I remember that. So thank you guys for being cool. I'm at Matt Cruz Sucks on Instagram, taking pictures of things that aren't myself most of the time, because who wants that, Malcolm? Let's be honest.
Yeah.
Thanks, Malcolm. Yeah, man. But thanks for having me on, brother. I appreciate it.
It was a great time actually speaking to you, and find out everything that you had to say. Now we move. Now before we go into our next match, we had a mid-match scene between Roker and Kalinowski. Kalinowski pretty much comes up to Roker going, because you're the only one out there that supported me during my match with Clark, I'm going to cut your time frame so before you get your title shot down to 2. And I mean, it was pretty much a standard post-credit scene. JDH, what are your feelings about this post-credit scene?
It was interesting just on the fact that we finally got that question answered of who that person was. It was something that had always been rumbling on the Facebook page of who was that one person, when are they finally going to address this? Well, they addressed it. It was not the person who I was personally expecting it to be, but it definitely added to this stipulation change, which I saw many people weren't really in favor of. They personally would have thought they should have stayed at 3 games, but I can understand if you're going to do the mini tournament, it obviously makes sense to lower it to 2. So, ultimately, not great, not offensive. It just got to the point. Sometimes that's all a promo needs to do, and so I think it accomplished what it needed to do.
Most definitely. Peter, what was your thoughts on this post-credit scene?
I thought that this answered a lot of questions. One about who had been in the audience, talking to Kalinowski, and then also kind of answering why Roka is in this scenario now. I mean, he's always been a good player, but after he lost the title and then played again at Collision last year, he has not even been in a #1 contenders match. So being in this scenario, I think right now would be regularly unwarranted, because yes, he's played well, he's beaten some good players, but he hasn't consistently won enough matches to warrant you are going to play one match, and if you win that, you are going to get a #1 contender shot. So I mean, I think that this explains it really well, and I like it a lot because I love Roka. But I mean, just from a pure analytical standpoint, in a regular time in the season without any other circumstances surrounding this, he should not be in this position.
Yeah, and what was your feelings on the post-credit scene?
Yeah, I mean, kind of to bounce off of Peter, Roka's been close to those winning streaks a couple times. We saw him beat JTE earlier in the season at the live event, the first one, but then he lost to Jeff Snyder. So he's been a little bit up and down just as far as wins and losses are concerned since he lost the title at Collision, but he's still been a consistent top contender, consistent, very high-scoring player. So it makes sense that if they're trying to have one more title match for Bibbs to defend before the singles tournament starts, it really does make sense that they needed to make this stipulation.
Yeah, most definitely. And I mean, I kind of thought the same. And I mean, this post-credit scene continues the gag of people walking into the room where the wheel just happens to be and just spinning it, just for fun. It seems to be quite happens every time they've got a post-credit scene with the wheel in the background. But I mean, it's just one of those ones that it was fine. I mean, it answered the questions of who was the mystery person in the crowd, and all that. So I mean, yeah, and then we move into Roker and Ben Bateman's match. And after round 1, Ben was in the lead 4 points to 3. And then in round 2, John spins Denzel Washington movies and does pretty well in it. Ben spins Oscar movies. And then after round 2, Ben was still in the lead, 11 points to 8. And then after round 3 was where the big swing sort of happens, and John wins the match 18 to 16. And I forgot to mention, but and before the match started, Roker just brought out his blindfold out again, so that whether or not they helped him focus or not, it's shown that it's helped him before, so obviously helped it again today. Robert, what was your thoughts on Roker versus Bateman?
Yeah, in general, I think both players had a semi-disappointing round 1 as far as just the score. Neither player really seemed to be able to hit a stride early on. But then in round 2, both players get a relatively good strength. Both players putting up a lot of points. A possible 8 points. Roker puts up 6, and I forgot how many Ben put up in his strength of Oscars. But, both players still did really well. Roker still down going into round 3, but then Roker does a clean sweep, gets all 3 questions, comes back from behind to win it. That doesn't really happen too often in the Schmoedown. Do we get a sort of comeback to a win? Especially with a 3-point deficit. That's actually a relatively large deficit, because that means you have to answer 2 questions before your opponent has to even answer 1 in round 3. So I think just the fact that Roker was able to come back and win it was pretty impressive, and I'm really looking forward to Roker's next match on the way to this mini title run.
Peter, so I mean, it was a very interesting match. Peter, what was your thoughts on Roker versus Bateman?
I thought that it came down to a very good match. But it definitely in that first round, it was a little disappointing. I think that it might have just been that they were just off today. It happens in the Schmoedown, and what I really liked was Ben Bateman, that when in the post-match interview he said that he didn't deserve to win the match, and Roker especially didn't deserve to win the match because of their first round performance. And I think that that's a very a humbling thing that we don't get to see from heels all the time. So I think that was kind of a cool way to put a spin on their first round performance or whatever. And I really am kind of perplexed at how often lately people have come back in the third round and gone 3 for 3 in their third round. I know it's been a couple times at least in high contention matches where somebody's been behind lately and then come back, getting all 3 of their questions in the round 3 and really making it an awesome match, because you don't see that a lot, and usually you can tell who's going to win and lose by the third round. But it's been very surprising lately, and I've enjoyed that a lot.
And Jeremy, what was your thoughts on the title match? Roker versus Bateman, not the title match.
I think the match ended up being pretty good. I mean, obviously it got off to a slow start in round 1, but obviously once round 2, round 3 happened, they started hitting their stride. I mean, it ended up being 18-16. That's actually a pretty respectable match in terms of point scoring. Something was brought up though that being I'm a Patreon wedge supporter, I think I can address to some point. There was a lot of people that talked about how Oscars was the Patreon wedge that got put up in a Ben Bateman match. The main reason that we were told was because at the time that match was announced, Ben Bateman was actually not Roker's confirmed opponent yet. So the person that used the wedge used it for John Roker, and the opponent just happened to be Ben Bateman. So it was just one of those deals where it just turned out that way. And it almost actually helped Bateman, which would have been a real spark of controversy had that potentially have happened. But ultimately, justice was served. Bateman missed a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles question, which hurts me right here in the feels. Shame on Ben not getting that right. He's about my age. He should know that movie like the back of his hand. So, but it's a big win for Roker. He now potentially goes on to play either Riley or Andrew Guy, and so yeah, that's win-win situation for the fans. We're pretty much getting a match that we want either way. So, those.
Move into the fun part of this episode, bracket predictions. So basically, what I'm going to do is I've gotten the brackets from various Take 3 members, and also the people on the panel will be their predictions, and all those people will be in a competition I'm going to run between all of the Take 3 members, and which is including Peter and Jeremy for this purpose as well, because they just happen to be on Summit. And yes, so and the prize is going to be the winner of the bracket predictions, or the person who is the closest to the winner, because if everyone's bracket gets busted, then obviously there's going to be no winner. Well, after the final of the tournament, then they get to choose. They get to choose the bracket. They get to choose the topic of the first ranking after the final. So, and obviously they're going to be on their episode too. So it's going to be interesting. They could pick a topic which I may never pick because it may not be in my wheelhouse, or they can pick something really obscure. So I mean, it's going to be a lot of fun. And I'm going to kick it off over to JTH. First, JTH, can you give me your bracket prediction?
All right, so I'm going to start in the Schmoedown live event, which I'll be at. I'm going to obviously probably go with the consensus with many people. I'm going to take Roka and Merle, although I do worry about them potentially making a long run, because I do feel that they are higher, and I don't really think they mesh well together, contributing their strengths, masking just why I think they may have trouble in this. Obviously, the fan of Schmoedown, like myself, Chance and Kalinowski, Devon, and Rachel Silverstrini. Let's see. Oh shoot, lost my thing. Let's see. Okay. Go. Next match. Yeah, that's a flub. So I'll take. I'm really looking forward to Bibiani and Nost. I'm actually. Yes, I'm going to go with Ethan and Graves to win this match. Close is probably my most anticipated match coming out of there. Riley and Bateman, I'll take a close match over Eric Zipper and Haley Fetch. I think it's a very underrated team. They can do some damage, can destroy a lot of brackets. Hopefully it's not my. Are we gonna go through, or just gonna?
Yeah, go for it all the way to the final.
Okay, so right side of the bracket, I'm going to take over Mance and Gerber. I think they end up of the Anarchy teams. I'm curious to see how Scott and Sean will film, especially with Snyder and Andreyko. That's a pretty power. I think they can really work well together. Janine and Atchity and Giraldi. I'm going to go with Atchity and Giraldi. I really like their chemistry. Obviously, the four, I think they know their strengths and weaknesses. I think I'm going to take JT East over the Wildberries. I know a lot of people will weep about that decision, but it's my bracket before you know it, so don't worry about that. Whitney and the Movie Geek over Brienne and Drew. I think that's a match we would consider a pretty big upset. I actually don't think that. Let's go to the quarterfinals, I guess. This is where opinion Roka and Merle kind of factors in, because I'm actually going to Ellison to actually knock them off and get to the semifinals. Merle going out in round 2. I'm going to go with Ethan and Sabine out. It's another upset that I think a lot of people. I really like Ethan. And Sabina has strengths that Ethan, as we saw, she struggled a little bit with distance over Disney, so I think she can help in that regard. I'm Andrade over Snyder and Draco upset compared to most. I really like Ashley and Draw spot. JT and Harris over Whitney and the Movie Geek. Working at Screen Junk, know their craft. They know their stuff. So my semifinals, I've seen Ethan and Graves, Audie and JT and Harris. My final and Sabina Graves taking on Matt Ashley and Alonzo Duralde, and the entire team tournament will be Ethan Big Time Erwin and Sabina Graves to win this whole thing. That's a very surprising many people stand.
Bold choice.
Me personally, I was disappointed that Janine and Ethan did not stay a team when the whole damn thing myself. That Sabina is a very good substitute for Janine, and I think, as I said, very well with Ethan's strengths and mask his weaknesses, which I think is team and what can admit like this. So I'm sure, but I'm going to take Ethan Graves to win the Anarchy team tournament.
Those are some pretty bold predictions right there, JDH. I'm going to throw it over to Peter next. Peter, what is your bracket?
I would just like to preface that last year in the singles Ultimate Schmoedown, I got 3 out of the 8 matches, first round matches correct. So, and in the teams tournament last year, I picked Critically Acclaimed to win. So, I do not have a great track record, but here we go. So Roca and Merle versus Marshall and Howard. I got the GOAT and Roca. I got KO and Ellison over Silvestrini and Stewart. Viviani and Nost over Erwin and Graves. Riley and Ben the Boss Bayman over Zipper and Fouch. Android and Snyder versus Manson Gerber. Even though I love Mance, I agree with JCH on that is the most random team in this tournament. That just is not going to go well, I assume. I'm going to take Ashley and Duralde over the Machine and Walton. I love Ashley, and I love him on Rotten Tomatoes, especially with Grey Drake. And I think that Alonzo Duralde, he hasn't had enough chances to shine yet. So I think he's going to show this team tournament that he can do some good stuff. And in probably my most wild card pick of the team tournament, I got the Wild Berries taken down. JT and Lon Harris. The Wild Berries are a team unmatched by all, so much in fact that they stayed together in the Anarchy team tournament. Like that, I mean, it might have been fixed, but that is how good they are, that they have to stay together. I think that they're going to pull up with the greatest performance by either one of these two men, and they are going to win this match and then horrifically lose in the second round because they're going to use all their luck on this match. And then I got McQueenie and Chandler over Seibold and Hewitt, even though I feel like this might be the closest first round match. Erwin and Graves and Viviani Nost will also be a very close match, but I think that that McQueenie and Chandler and Seibold and Hewitt will be equally as close. So then going on to the next round, I got John Roca and Dan Merle winning over KO and Ellison, even though I think that this is going to be a great match, I think for sure. Viviani and Nost and Riley the Boss Bayman, I got Riley and Ben the Boss Bayman going on to the next round, 5 horsemen. And then I got the Android and Jeff Snyder advancing over Atchity and Duralde. I think that that combination of almost the singles champion and then a person who has been great in teams as being part of the greatest team champions ever. So I think that combination is going to be very powerful and just a little bit too powerful for Ashley and Geralde. And then, as I said before, I think the Wildberries are going to have a great match in round 1 and then just crash and burn in epic Wildberry style the second round. So McQueenie and Chandler are going to advance to semifinals. And my semifinals, I got hashtag 5 Horsemen, the GOAT, and Roka winning over Mark Riley and Ben Bateman to go into the finals. And then in the Android and Snyder versus McQueenie and Chandler, again, I think that powerful combination of Jeff Snyder and the Android is going to make pretty easy work of McQueenie and Chandler. And so then in my finals, I got Dan Merle and John Roca versus Mark Andreyko and Jeff Snyder. And I got Dan Merle and John Roca taking it, and they're going to be playing the Shire Wolves at Spectacular. And that's just how it's going to be. I think we all want that. Yeah. That's my picks.
Yeah. I mean, those are some great picks here, some bold choices for sure. Someone who I think might have more bold choices. Robert, what is your bracket prediction?
Well, similar to Peter, last year I also had critically acclaimed winning it all, so my track record isn't that great.
I could hear Chris Clark crying.
Yeah, exactly. So this is how it's gonna go. I definitely think Roka and Merle take Marshall and Howard at the live event. I think kicking off the tournament, those two are just gonna be on fire, Roka and Merle. Marshall and Howard, I think, might put up a fight, but I don't think they have much of a shot at winning. Kalinowski and Ellison, I think, take Stewart and Silvestrini pretty easily as well. Chance Ellison is a big unknown in this tournament. As somebody who has played him personally in the leagues that we do around here, I know how dangerous he is, and I have lost to him a number of times, and I have beaten him a time. So I know his knowledge base, and I know that Chance is somebody who will live up to the hype that is around him. So I definitely think Kalinowski and Ellison take this one. Down next, I think, is the closest match of the entire first round is Bibiani and Nost versus Irwin and Graves. I think Irwin edges out Bibiani, and I think Nost edges out Graves. So it's really just a matter of which teams are going to work best together, especially in that third round, picking who takes which question. But I'm just going to give the slight edge to Bibiani and Nost, if only for the fact that I want to see them move on. But that one could really go either way. That one is a complete coin flip. Riley and Bateman, I think, are going to take Zipper and Fouch, although I think that match is also going to be closer than a lot of people are expecting. If you look at what Haley did in her most recent team match, she crushed it. I think she missed one question the entire match, one or two. So I think that is going to be a lot closer than people are expecting, but I do think Riley and Bateman are going to take it. Snyder and Jacob, I think, are going to take Mance and Gerber. Like we've all said, Mance and Gerber are kind of going to be an interesting team to watch, but I think Snyder and Draco have very, very different strengths, so I think they'll even each other out. I'm going to take Atchity and Geralde over Machine and Walton. Matt Atchity obviously has proven specifically in teams that he really knows his stuff. And Geralde has had one team match that he himself did really, really good in, even though their team didn't do great. And he also, over the course of the free-for-all appearances that we've seen, he's done really, really well, especially in that first free-for-all. He lasted like an incredible number of rounds. So I think Geralde is extremely underrated. I think Ashley and Geralde are going to make a run in this tournament. Next, I have JTE and Harris taking the Wildberries. I think JTE and Harris are the underdogs of this tournament, and I don't see why. I honestly think they're my dark horses. They work together. They've known each other for a long time. JTE obviously is the team's expert, having been the team champion for a year or even more. And Harris has been one of the most underrated players in the entire league. Look at how he lost on the very last question to Irwin. His defeat of Cody Hall was really, really good. Harris is a player that we need to watch out for, so I think that team is deadly. And then I'm going to take Cybold and the Movie Geek. over McWeeny and Chandler. McWeeny and Chandler, I think, is going to be an interesting team, but I don't think that they are going to quite mesh together like Seibold and his partner will. I think Whitney is just an incredible knowledge base that we haven't even seen fully explored, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what this newcomer Hyuk has. I don't even know if that's the correct pronunciation, but I'm going to pretend that it is. So into round 2, I have Roka Merle versus Kalinowski Ellison. I think this is the best match of the entire second round, and I think Kalinowski and Ellison take it. I know that's a slightly bold pick, but as somebody who knows Chance well, I think him and Kalinowski are going to work very, very well. We've seen how committed Kalinowski was to the Inner Geekdom tournament. I think he'll be just as committed to this team tournament. And I think while I love Roka and Merle as a team, both two of my favorite players of all time, I just have a feeling that Kalinowski and Ellison are going to take that one. So next I have Bibiani Nos versus Riley Bateman. I think this is where Bibiani and Nos lose. Riley and Bateman, I think, both have really, really good knowledge bases. And while Bibiani and Nos are going to be a great team, I just don't think, if you're putting members up against each other, I think Bibiani edges out Riley, and I think Bateman also has a pretty handed knowledge base on Nos. Even though Nos is one of my favorite players to watch, I do think Riley and Bateman take that match. Next, I have Achidi and Duralde versus Snyder and Draco. I think Achidi and Duralde take this. I think Snyder and Draco are going to be a really, really good round 1 team. But in round 2, I don't necessarily know if they're going to mesh in round 2 if somebody spins like one of the team partner's strengths. So for example, if they spin musicals or something like that, where we know Andraco is strong in that, but we don't really know if Snyder's as good in that, you kind of have to have that level of trust in your teammate. And I'm just not sure that they are going to mesh well together. So I'm going to take Achidi and Duralde, both film critics that have known each other for a long time. And I think they're going to make a run. And then I actually have JT and Harris pulling the win over Seibold and the Movie Geek as well. Like I said, JT and Harris, I think, are going to go far, and I really have a feeling about them in this tournament. I think both of them are incredibly underrated players. So then Kalinowski and Ellison in the semis against Riley and Bateman. This is a really, really, really tough match to call, but I am going to take Riley and Bateman. I love Chance, he's a great guy, and I think him and Kalinowski will pair very, very well together, but I think Riley and Bateman will pair even better together, so I am going to take Riley Bateman. I know that's kind of a hot take. I don't think many people have them going to the finals. And finally, Achidi and Duralde versus JTE and Harris, and I think JTE and Lon Harris take this one as well. So in my finals, I have JTE and Lon Harris versus Riley and Bateman, and I have JTE and Lon Harris winning the entire tournament, so that JTE and Harris are going to go on to play Shirewolves, and JTE might be the first person, I think, to ever have a title in 2 teams.
Yeah, I would, if I could jump in and say a little bit on that. JTE and Lon Harris, even though I had the Wildberries beating them, they are definitely my number 2 ranked team, because they seem like a definite powerhouse. I just really want the Wildberries to win, because that would be a terrific upset.
Of course, yeah. But I just think what we've seen of Harris in the free-for-all, what we've seen him in his singles matches, he made his debut singles match against Mark Bernardin, I think, and he's I think 2-1 in singles, if I remember right, and his only loss is to Ethan Irwin on the last question. So I think he's an incredibly underrated player, and JT, we know, has done well recently. So yeah.
And then also JT, he dragged Finstock to a championship team match.
Exactly.
So he has the element of greatness in the team division. So I think honestly, they could be the team winner, the team tournament winner. But I really want those wild berries.
And also, let's not forget, Lon Harris could finally teach JT how to spell.
Exactly. As the professor, I think. Yeah, exactly.
I hope they fool Harris teaching JT to spell. It's like.
That would be a good post-scene segment, for sure.
Yeah, most definitely. And my bracket that I've got here, for round 1, I've got Roku and Merle over Marshall and Howard. I've got Kalinowski and Ellison over Devon and Rachel. I've got Bibbs and Nost over Irwin and Graves. I've got Wiley and Bateman over Zipper and Fouch. I've got Snyder and Draco over Mance and Gerber. I've got Ashley and Geralde over Machine and Walton. I've also got JT and Harris, who are apparently being known as the Evil Geniuses now. I think that's their team name. Over the Wildberries. And I've got McGreeny Chandler over Seibold and Hewitt. And then for round 2, I've got Kalinowski and Allison over Roker and Merle. I've got Bibbs and Nost over Wiley and Bateman. I've got HT and Geralde over Snyder and Draco. I've got McGreeny and Chandler over JT and Harris. And then for round 3, I've got Bibbs and Nost over Kalinowski and Allison. And I've got McGreeny and Chandler over HT and Geralde. And then I've got McGreeny and Chandler actually winning the whole thing, because I think with pairing, I think they've both got enough knowledge that they can balance each other out, and they can help each other on certain categories as well. So I mean, it's one of those ones that it can go either way. This is very interesting tournament altogether. So who knows what can happen. And I've also got some other brackets here from other members of Take 3. I've got Matt Kearns sent me his bracket. He has got Roker and Merle over Marshall and Howard. He's got Kalinowski and Allison over Rachel and Devon. He's got Bibbs and Nost over Irwin and Graves. He's got Wiley and Bateman over Zipper and Fouch. He's got Snyder and Draco over Mance and Gerber. He's got Ashley and Geralde over Machine and Walton. He's got JT over the Wildberries. He's got McGreeny and Chandler over Seibold and Hewitt. And then for round 2, he's got Kalinowski and Allison over Roker and Merle. He's got Wiley and Bateman over Bibbs and Nost. He's got Snyder and Draco over HT and Geralde. He's got JT and Harris over McGreeny and Chandler. And then for round 3, he's got Wiley and Bateman over Kalinowski and Allison, and Snyder and Draco over JT and Harris. And obviously, he's got Wiley and Bateman winning the whole thing. So, so yeah.
Of course he does. Of course he does.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's alright. It's alright. Chris Clark's bracket is going to be a bunch of surprises.
I bet at $5 billion, Bibiani and Nost and Seibold and Hewitt meet in the finals. Just gonna say it right now. I just bet everything I will ever earn that those two will be in the finals in his bracket.
You're about to win that bet.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I mean, that is pretty much his final 2, but but I'll go through the rest of his bracket anyway. He's got Roker and Merle over Marshall and Howard. He's got Kalinowski and Allison over and Stewart. He's got Bibbs and Nost over Irwin and Graves. Wiley and Bateman over Zipper and Fouch. Snyder and Draco over Mance Gerber. He's got Atson and Geralde over Machine Walton. JT and Harris over McCougar and over the Wildberries. He's got Seibold and Hewitt over McGreeny and Chandler. He's got, and for round 2, he's got Kalinowski and Allison over Roker and Merle. He's got Bibbs and Nost over Wiley and Bateman. He's got Atson and Geralde over Snyder and Draco. He's got Seibold and Hewitt over JT and Harris. And then he's got Bibbs and Nost over Kalinowski and Allison. And he's got Seibold and Hewitt over JT and Geralde. So his final 2 is Seibold and Hewitt over Bibbs and Nost. So who do you want to think he's got winning the whole thing?
Bibiani Nost, yeah.
He wants Bibiani to be 2 champions.
No, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go Whitney and Movie Geek.
Well, all of you are wrong, because he's written in the winner box. That is going to be a tie. He's not going to choose between both.
What a guy.
But he did he did message me later going that he actually thinks that Cybon Hewitt will win over Bibbs and
wow.
Nose. So
Wow.
yeah.
I mean, I can see
It's the
it. I can see it.
And I've got Linus's bracket now. Linus for round one. Linus has got Roker and Merle over Marshall and Howard. He's got Kalinowski and Allison over Devon and Rachel. He's got Bibbs and Nost over Irwin and Graves. Wiley and Bateman over Zipper and Fouch. Snyder and Draco over Manson and Gerber. Atchie and Giraldi over Machine and Walton. He's got JT and Harris over McCruger and Dewberry. He's got McQueenie and Chandler over Cybold and Hewitt. For the next round, he's got Kalinowski and Allison over Roker and Merle. He's got Wiley and Bateman over Bibbs and Nost. He's got Atchie and Giraldi over Snyder and Draco. He's got JT and Harris over McQueenie Chandler. And then for the next round, he's got Kalinowski and Allison over Wiley and Bateman. He's got Atchie and Giraldi over JT and Harris, and he's got Atchie and Giraldi winning the whole thing. And then the final bracket that I was sent is from Brooklyn, and Brooklyn has got Roker and Merle over Howard and Marshall, Kalinowski and Allison over Rachel and Devon, Bibbs and Nost over Graves and Irwin, Zipper and Fouch over Wiley and Bateman, Snyder and Draco over Mance and Gerber, Atchie and Giraldi over Machine and Walton, JT and Harris over Wildberries, Cybold and Hewitt over McQueenie and Chandler, and for round two, he's got Kalinowski and Allison over Roker Merle, he's got Nost and Bibiani over Zipper and Fouch, he's got Snyder and Draco over Atchie and Giraldi, he's got Cybold and Hewitt over JT and Lon Harris, and then for round three, he's got Bibiani and Nost over Kalinowski and Allison. He's got Snyder and Draco over Cybold and Hewitt. And then he's got Snyder and Draco winning the whole thing over Bibbs and Nost.
Wow.
And that ends the bracket predictions that we've got. They're not the only ones that are going to be involved in the competition, and if other people get in take three, get them to me in time, then they'll be counted as well, but they do get me in time to be read on the summit. So, but now we move on to this week in the Schmoedown. On Tuesday, we've got Guy versus Wiley. JDH, what are your thoughts on this match?
Really looking forward to it, as I alluded to earlier. I think it's going to make an interesting John Roca. I'm probably leaning towards Guy. I think that's the match that people probably want a little bit more. And he shockingly included. Obviously, if you saw the Take 3 reaction to Collision, I was very, very shocked that he beat Dan Merle. So keep the momentum going. Riley, it's going to be very he forms. He has not played a singles match in forever, and then he had basically a cup of coffee in the free-for-all this year. Got 5 questions asked to him, got one, I believe, and made a first-round exit. So he's going to have to knock the rust off very quickly if he's going to want to beat Andrew Guy. Valiant effort, but I think Andrew Guy will take it, and he will improve to 2-0 and go on to face the
Yeah, so I mean, that's definitely interesting. Sort of can go either way. Peter, what are your thoughts on Guy versus Wiley?
I think that honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if it played out a lot like Dan versus Guy. But yeah, during that match, I was heartbroken Damerl, he's my favorite player. He's my favorite screen junkie. He really, he knows his stuff, and I almost cried. I'll tell you now, I almost cried. I actually filmed a reaction to that, but I couldn't take myself to edit it and put it up because I was just so heartbroken during that reaction. I really hope that Riley pulls it out because I really want Guy to know that it was a fluke. It was a fluke that he beat Damerl, but I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up beating Riley because Riley hasn't played in a long time, a little sooner than Dan had played, but yeah, it could be another heartbreaking match for me. But yeah, I'm hoping for the best.
And last but not least, Robert, what do you think is going to happen in Guy versus Riley?
This is a really, really tough call. As much as I really want to see Riley Roca 4, is that what it?
Yeah,
Riley Roca
4.
3, Riley Roca 4, I think. As much as I want to see Riley Roca 4, I really want to see Guy Roca, and I think that Guy is committed enough that he can beat Riley. Riley might be a little bit rusty, especially in singles. He hasn't been there in a while. I mean, like Dan has come out and said, when you haven't played in so long, when all the matches you have played recently are 5-round matches, that third round comes really quick, and you got to really step up your game if you had an off start. So I really think Guy can take this. I want to see Guy Roca. I want to see father versus son.
Yeah, and the reason Matt couldn't be here today is he's hiding in the court. Is because of this match. He's hiding in the corner, going, "This match isn't happening. This match isn't happening."
Yeah.
Because he likes both of them. He just doesn't want to choose between them. I think Guy can pull this off because I think Guy wants to win. And I think this is the first full match Riley has played since the free-fall. So I mean. So we're going to have to hope his ring rust has been knocked off and that he's ring ready. So I mean, it's definitely interesting. And on Friday we've got TBD having another match. He seems to have a lot of matches these days. We don't actually know what's happening. JDH. What do you think will happen on Friday?
I'm guessing it's going to be Roca versus the winner of it. I'll actually be able to see it before because I'm guessing that we'll probably have not seen it by then. So it's not that. So but it will be, and does probably going to lean towards Romus to margins to get the job done. He end up being completely wrong, and I'll be.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I'll be surprised if it's that because it seems like it'll be a quick turnaround for them to get to there. But Peter, what do you think the match on Friday is going to be?
I've just developed a saying in the last 5 seconds in my head. When in doubt, go Wildberries. And so I think it's just going to be a free-for-all with the Wildberries defending. It's going to be the Wildberries versus everybody. So that's my bold prediction for Friday's match, because when in doubt, go Wildberries. Wildberries.
Wildberries definitely equal ratings. And Robert, what do you think Friday's match is going to be?
Yeah, I'm not really sure. I don't think it's going to be Roca versus the winner of Bateman and Guy, or Roca versus the winner of Riley Guy. I think they're going to want to take a little bit more time to hype that match up, play out the storyline, whether it's Horseman versus Horseman or Guy versus Roca. I think they'd rather take the time to really play that up a little bit. Now, that being said, I don't know. I trust in Christian and Thad and who's ever making the scheduling. Maybe it'll just be Kalinowski hitting rewind on the Intergeekdom tournament and suddenly we're redoing the finals match or something like that. I don't know. I got no clue.
Yeah, like I mean, I've really got no idea. But yeah, I mean personally, like I'm with you. I don't think it's gonna be Broker versus Wiley Guy because it's just too soon. And I mean, for the same reason, I don't know if it's going to be Jared and Rosie because that seems like too soon to do that match as well. So I mean, both ways it can go either way. But that brings us to the end of the summer. We haven't really had any sort of major news come out over the past few days to actually announce. So I mean, yeah. Robert, where can people find you online?
Sure, you can find me on Twitter and Letterboxd personally at RBRTPRKR98. That's my first and last name, no vowels plus a year. Other than that, you can find some stuff I do. I do hosting and admin duties with Movie Battleground over on the Worldwide Movie Games Network. I do admin duties here on Take 3 Productions. And you can find me on my personal podcast that I do with me and my friend Zach Ford. It's called Fireside Chit Chat. You can find that on Podbean and an Apple Podcast, where we talk movies, music, and other pop culture nonsense.
And Peter, where can people find you online?
You can find me on my YouTube channel, Kansas Viking Reactions. I do reactions to trailers, Schmoedown matches, not so much Schmoedown matches lately because school has started up, but yeah, generally I Schmoedown reactions and trailer reactions, so yeah, go over and subscribe.
And JDH, where can people find you online?
You can find me on Twitter at WWEJTH1. You can find me on all the fan-related content. And also, cheap plug, join the Movie Trivia Schmoedown Patreon page. That Jurassic Park Iron Man match is worth the get. Any spoilers, but and also join. See my JTH reacts on my YouTube channel at JTH.
And you can find me on Take 3 Productions, where I host my show Rankum. The last episode we had was acting performances in Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit, so I mean that was a lot of fun. I don't know who wins because at the time of recording we haven't actually done that yet. So, but yeah, we've got, and I also compete in movie trivia all over the place, whether it's on Worldwide Movie Games or Multiplex. So check me out. And I'm also on Twitter, Letterboxd, and Stardust at Malcor, and also on Facebook at Malcolm Goldilay. And until next time, take care.